Hey, welcome to Whoa, That's Good Wednesday. I am so excited to be here to be guest hosting. This is the first of several that I'm going to get to guest host because my daughter, Sadie, is home taking care of her new baby girl. She is loving it and getting lots of snuggles in. And so, yeah, if you have not heard, Honey is a new big sister. I am now a grandmother of 6, and it's just the best life. And I cannot think of a better thing than to get to host my daughter's podcast while she is home taking care of her daughters. So this is a pretty special blessing. And also, I have a really special blessing today to get to talk to someone who is a huge advocate for moms, specifically working moms, which Sadie is, and which I am. She has a company called Korie Media, and she has a new book out that we're going to talk about later. But welcome to the podcast, Paula Faris.
Oh, Korie, and congratulations, Grandma. I have to ask.
Thank you.
Is being a grandparent everything that they say it is? Is it better than being a
And
parent?
more.
Now, I know you have to be a parent first, so.
Yeah, that's kind of how the process goes, but it's even better, really. It is. I always knew that I would love being a grandmother, of course, because I have a great example. My mom is an amazing grandmother to Mama, but it's so much fun. It's all the good and none of the really hard, So, although sometimes,
you could just spoil them. You spoil them and give them back to
them.
us on the sugar high. So there's that.
That's pretty much how it goes. You get to just say yes all the time, and it's so good.
That's good.
But thank you so much for being here, Paula. I just love what you're doing, and I want to hear so much more about everything that you're doing for moms and working moms. But first, we have to do what this podcast is all about. The first question I have to ask you is, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
The best piece of advice. Yeah, I know. Exactly. And then we can back into it, right? The hard-hitting question from the top, Korie. I love it with that fastball. I think the best bit of advice that I have ever been given is to just be quick to say, I'm sorry, and even quicker to forgive. That right there just shows that we need grace, and we need to extend grace to others. But for me, just to not hold to live in offense, to take things personally. But I try to live in that mantra with my kids, my friends, my family, that I'm going to make mistakes, but I want to be quick to say I'm sorry, and even quicker to forgive. And I want, so that's really, I think, the best bit of advice. There's a lot of good advice out there, but I think that's probably the best bit of advice.
I think that is so good. And I love that you just went there because, whenever you have been married a really long time and you have kids, that forgiveness and extending it and asking for it for yourself is so important. And I just think I love that so much. I did want to mention, because in the top of this, I talked about moms and working moms and all that. And if you are listening today and you are not a working mom, you're not a mom at all, you may not even be a woman, I don't want you to turn this off, because Paula has so much great advice. And I think you just demonstrated it right there off the top, but so much great advice. You have been a Emmy award-winning journalist. You have co-hosted Good Morning America, the weekend edition, for a decade. You were a co-host of The View, and you have done so much. And what I love about you is you're so willing to just share what you've learned and all of that. And those are hard jobs. It's not easy. I've actually been guest on those, and I know how hard it is. I cannot even imagine doing that every day, every weekend. And so you just have so much great advice, and you are so willing to share that. So I love that so much. So thank you for doing that. So if you're not a mom and you're not a working mom, please do not turn this off. I think there's going to be so many things that we're going to talk about that are just universal truths that can apply to everybody. But first of all, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the world. And I'm sure we've all read the articles about anxiety and what young girls are dealing with. And it just seems to be in just higher levels than ever that young girls are experiencing anxiety. And your new book, just the title, I felt just kind of made me my shoulders relax a little bit.
Oh, and that makes me happy.
The title is You Don't Have to Carry It All. And I just love that so much, because I think that is such an important message for people to hear, and particularly young girls who are feeling like they're carrying it all. We can see it in the rates of depression and anxiety that they're dealing with. So tell me a little bit about why you wrote the book and any advice.
Sure.
Speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, I have a 15-year-old daughter who I understand the world of anxiety very well. I have an 8-year-old who was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. So like, I get that world. Like these kids these days, this generation is dealing with high levels of agency and anxiety. But I really think that like their future is so bright and they're going to be the ones to really disrupt the space and change the game for us. But I wrote the book. So Korie, I have 3 kids, grew up in a Christian home, always felt tension about, working outside of the home based on, my own experiences, but also felt tension in the workplace based on how I was treated once I had kids. Like I was treated like less than. I wasn't valued. I wasn't celebrated. I was scrutinized and I was paid less. And so I really, a couple of years ago, I was in network news for decades. And then I lost my job right at the beginning of the pandemic. And I had this divergence. I could continue in television news, which is familiar, safe, right? Kind of the expected choice. Or I could really start to advocate for mothers and mothers in the workplace specifically, because that's my experience. I didn't know anything about how to found a company. I'm not an entrepreneur. I know how to ask questions, but it was in that space. And I was like, okay, God, what do you want me to do? And I really felt like he was really calling me into this space to champion working moms. I didn't know what it was going to look like. Didn't even have a name for the company. Carrie kind of came to me because, we carry children, whether they're in our hearts or our bellies, whether we adopt or we have
Love
birth
that.
them on our own. And I wanted to help carry women through these moments. So started Carrie about 1.5 years ago to really provide resources and content and storytelling rather, to change the game for working moms. We believe being a working mom should work. And the reality is, 70% of mothers today are working because they have to, not because they get to or want to, but because they have to. And the majority of mothers will at some point, it's so different from when I was raised and from when my grandparents were raised, but 70% of mothers will at some point be the primary breadwinner for their family. So why are we valued less? Why are we valued less once we become mothers? Why are we scrutinized? Why are we paid less? I really wanted to change the game. This book is really, it's a chance for me. I had a chance to put on my journalist hat and interview all kinds of like really fascinating people, like renowned thought leaders, scientists, theologians, historians, to figure out like how we got to this point and how we can get out. Like, how can we give working moms the support they need and deserve, but also the why behind it. Like you can't talk about the what if you haven't established the why. And why is it important, Korie? Why is it important to give families and mothers in the workplace support? Well, because I really believe a lot of the issues, the majority of the issues we face as a society, are a direct result to 2 things: how we devalue mothers in the workplace and how we devalue families in society. So I want to be part of changing that.
Wow, that's so great. I just love your mission, and I'm going to be a cheerleader for you and what you're doing in all of this. So one of the things you did mention as you got to talk to a lot of people in interviewing this book. Mm-hmm. And I noticed in the part where you talked about like women in the Bible, you phoned a friend. And I love that so much because I think it's so important. It's so important to like not just feel like we're on our own and we have to like have it all figured out. Like we have a question about something, call a friend, call somebody that maybe has done some more research in that. And I love that you did that. Tell me a little bit about what you learned about women and work in the Bible.
Hey everyone, it's Sadie Rob here, and y'all, I'm gonna be honest, I like to fix my hair the night before. That is kind of my routine because I don't like to wake up early and have to do it. So I fully fix my hair, but in order for it to stay that way, the pillowcase that I use matters. And that's where Kitsch comes in and helps us out with that. Kitsch has so many awesome products to help you take care of your skin and your hair routine and take it to the next level. They honestly make it so easy to pamper yourself, and unlike a lot of other beauty brands on TikTok and Instagram, Kitsch won't break the bank, which is so awesome. I've said it before, but I'm a huge fan of satin sleep products, and some of Kitsch's best sellers are their satin pillowcases, caps, and eye masks. They're vegan and cruelty-free, and they will be a game changer for your hair and your skin. I personally ordered the king-size Kitsch satin pillowcase in a charcoal color, but they have so many cute colors, so you can go find the one that's perfect for you and your bed that you have. I love the satin pillowcase because, like I said, I like to fix my hair the night before, but to sleep on your hair and for it to actually look good, the pillowcase matters. So having a silk pillowcase, sleeping on it I wake up with it a lot more tame than I used to before I had satin pillowcases. It also has helped my skin a lot too. I used to have a lot of breakouts and whatnot, and it just helps keep your skin a lot more fresh. So if you ever have split ends, breakage, or frizz, one of the things that can help you the most is by getting a satin pillowcase. And from Kitsch, they have the best, like I said, to keep your bed head under control and your tangles in check. You gotta love anything that gives you fewer bad hair days, especially in the South with all of our humidity. And another super popular Kitsch product is their heatless satin curling rollers. So say bye-bye to heat damage. These are the originals, the OGs, and still the best heatless curlers. So don't settle for knockoffs. Get the ones that started the craze. It's amazing that Kitsch went from selling hair ties door to door in 2010 to being sold at over 20,000 retail locations. But when you order from Kitsch, you'll see why they grew so fast. Right now, Kitsch is offering you 30% off your entire order at mykitsch.com/whoa. That's right, that's 30% off anything and everything at mykitsch, spelled mykitsch.com/whoa. One more time, that's mykitsch.com/whoa for 30% off your order today.
From my perspective, it's important that I interview people from all walks of life. It's, whether, regardless of their political affiliation, their ideologies, whatnot. But one chapter, I really wanted to explore the way that certain traditions and cultures and even faith circles can diminish the roles of women. It's a mainstream book, but I think this is really important context for all of us because there's so many of us walking around here in America with this tension of what our role is. Because of what our constructs, for me, it was the way I was raised. Doesn't a good godly wife stay home and raise her children? That was so much of the tension that I felt. But God put the stuff on my heart too, to really pursue. And so I carried that tension. I decided to interview Joel Muddamalle. He's the director of theology at Proverbs 31 Ministries, and then Lisa Turkhurst, who is the president of Proverbs 31 Ministries. And Lisa's become a really good friend of mine. I wanted to figure out what the Bible says about women and their roles. And this chapter was really, I will say this, the book is disruptive. It ruffles some feathers, right? It was very hard for me to write this chapter because in my experiences, I went to a really small conservative Christian school and the roles of women were very much like you get married and you stay home and you stay in the kitchen where you belong. You know what I mean? So I really wanted to unpack what the Bible said about our roles as women and mothers. And what I learned was it was a very freeing message for me. Mm-hmm. And I hope that it's a really freeing message for those who have struggled with this very thing. And those that haven't, just know that there's a lot of traditions and cultures, not just Christianity, a lot of traditions and cultures that really diminish the roles of women and our contributions to society. So I wanted this to be a freeing chapter, but it was really difficult because you have to call out certain things that experiences that have happened. But again, I wanted it to be freeing. I learned that from the very beginning in Genesis, men and women were created to subdue together collaboratively. The Proverbs 31 woman, we think of her as a homemaker, but she was like the modern day boss babe. Like she was negotiating. She was a skilled businesswoman. I mean, when her husband was away at war, everyone depended on her. She bought a field with her earnings. And yet it's the way that Christianity often has reduced women to our roles and devalued us in many ways. Even you go in the New Testament, how Mary sat at the feet of Jesus, she was a student and a scholar, and that was, just think about in those days, like so much of the New Testament was a snapshot of history. It wasn't necessarily like it was, they had their own historical, they had their own issues going on in history. And so can you imagine how disruptive it was for people to walk in and see Mary sitting with all the disciples, all the men, but Mary, a woman who was a third-rate citizen at that time, sitting at his feet she's a student and a scholar, and you sat at Jesus' feet to learn and then to become a rabbi yourself. So it was a very freeing chapter. But again, it was tough for me to write. Yeah. I love, my faith is everything to me. It is the bedrock of who I am. It's the foundation of my life. But
I love that you went there.
Important.
I'm so grateful though that you did go there because, and like you mentioned,
I'm nervous about it though, Korie. I'm a little nervous. So
it was so good. And like you mentioned, it's not just Christianity. It is other cultures. I remember reading a book a long time ago called Half the Sky, and talking about how the cultures that don't support women, are cultures that are not as healthy as a society because women do hold up half the sky. That's what we're meant to do. And we're meant to co-labor, like you mentioned. And I love the part about Proverbs 31 because I've thought that so much. I'm like, this was a working woman. This was not a woman that was just, home. And not that there's anything wrong with that. That is a beautiful thing as well. That's a beautiful thing as well. But, there are so many examples in the Bible of women who are working women and who are just, that are doing that. And I love that you pointed that out and brought that out, because I do think that there is some mom guilt that we can feel about that specifically.
100%.
Another thing I think about when I read that Proverbs 31, I'm like, she is not doing this all on her own. And I think it's so important to talk about that. We have to ask for help. We have to get help. And I've always been a really big advocate about that. If you can afford for someone to come in and clean your house once a week, do it. I remember when ours were young, food was a big issue, like cooking at night. So Willie is a really good cook, and now he cooks for our family all the time and is so amazing. And I love and so grateful for that. But back then, he didn't. He cooked some, but he didn't feel that burden of every night have the meal on the table. And I was feeling that burden, and I was like, it's not my gifting. I'm not good at this. So I remember I was talking to a friend, and I was at a women's Bible study, and we were all just kind of complaining about that same thing. And I know you talk about this a lot in your book, so I want to hear a little bit about your perspective on it. But I remember asking a friend who does love to cook. I was like, hey, what would it be like if you cooked for our family one night a week and you did a full, a whole meal? Mm-hmm. I'll pay you and you can just deliver. And it was cheaper than us going out for a meal, but we had a home cooked meal once a week, and it helped support, do something that she loved and support her. And so finding ways of finding people in your community, in your circle, and your friendship within your family, are paying someone to just help you. That is there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a really important conversation to have. And I love that you went there in the book and talked about that a little bit.
And you just brought up such a good point, asking for help, saying, I cannot carry it all. I can, but guess what? My shoulders are going to become weak, and I'm going to burn out, and I'm not going to be a good version of myself to anybody. And we have been so programmed in this country to think that asking for help is a sign of weakness or a sign of failure. We want to wear this mommy martyr status with pride. I can do it all. I can carry it. I don't need anybody. I don't need to ask for help. And if I do ask for help, she's privileged or she's weak. Well, first of all, yes, it is a privilege, but you can create that circle of community. Like you just said, I have people I can't afford a housekeeper. I can't afford somebody to help me meal plan. I can't afford childcare. That's totally understandable. And guess what? In other countries where they have a much healthier view on family and interdependence, hiring help is much more affordable, and they are not expected to carry it all, nor do they even try. But you can create that. Someone reached out to me and they're like, I have special needs kids and it's too much to ask. And I said, there are people that are just like you out there. You can find them and you create that community. You say, I know what it's like to have special needs kids. I'm going to watch your kids on a Friday and then you watch mine the next Friday. You start to be the help to other people that you so desperately need. Mm-hmm. I have somebody that cleans my house for every month. I used to feel dirty to do that. I used to feel, no pun intended, I used to feel dirty asking somebody to do that because I love cleaning. I'm like, but I can do it myself. But I don't have to. I don't have to carry it all. Go clean somebody else's house that needs it. I love to clean. I can go clean my sister's house, right? Be that help to other people. But again, we're so conditioned, and you mentioned anxiety and burnout, and it's all tied into this mentality, Korie, that we have to carry it all. We have to do it all. We have to do it perfectly. And guess what? We don't, and we won't.
We won't.
And we're gonna drop a ball every single day. I tell my kids, mommy's dropping a couple balls today. I'm going to let the plastic ones drop, but I'm keeping the glass ones in the air. Those ones are really important. So that helps me drop the perfectionism and ask for help and just prioritize my life.
That's so good.
But you can't carry it all. You can't carry it all. Ask for help. Be that help to somebody else. Find your tribe. Build your community. I just had to travel 2 days for work. I mean, I had my sister helping me out. I had one of my good friends. I had my husband's the basketball coach from our high school. I had the golf coach. I had like 6 people. And you know what? At first I was like, no, I'm not going to feel bad about that.
Yeah.
Because I'm that help to them because I jump in and help them too. You have to build a tribe and build a community and do life with people.
Yes.
And it's okay to ask for help.
I love that. I always tell people, you have to be an advocate for yourself, like look at the things that are the pain points in your life and be like, okay,
absolutely,
how can I solve some of these things? And I know a lot of you listening may feel like, you don't have that community, you don't have that family, you don't have those people around you, but you can start finding that by being that. A lot of places you find that is in a church or wherever but you do have to be that for other people and you have to ask for it. You have to reach out. And even, with young people, I talk to our young kids a lot or they're young adults now, just about finding relationships and friendships and all that. You have to ask for it. You have to be the one that invites. You can't just sit at home and
put yourself
be like,
out there, Korie.
Yes,
put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm. You have to.
Yeah.
I love how you started the book. I think it was in the first chapter or maybe in the intro. You just went ahead and said like, I've been burnt out. I went to a therapist. I needed that help.
Totally.
And you just like were super honest. And I love that. Talk about like why it's important for us to kind of be honest about where we are and what we're going through. You talked about everything from like, mastitis and exhaustion and all the things that women go through and that we don't really talk about a lot.
Hey, yo, friends, Sadie Rob here. And we all know that little things can make a big difference, whether that's giving someone a hug, sending someone an encouraging text or email. Man, maybe if it's even just learning one little Bible verse, these small things can make a big impact. Friends, we love it when we can make a huge difference in a short time. And that is why we are all about AG1 by Athletic Greens in the Huff House. AG1 is the healthiest thing that you can do in under a minute. Christian sets big goals for his fitness routine. This guy is not just setting small goals. He's setting big goals, but AG1 makes it so easy to help him achieve those goals. He puts 1 scoop in his water bottle every morning to start off his day, and it gives him a boost of focus and energy. He loves the taste of it, and it's a single scoop that's loaded with 75 vitamins and minerals that our bodies need for energy, immune support, and gut health. And you guys know how important gut health is. It doesn't just affect your stomach, it affects your whole health, including your mental health. So if you have struggles in that area, it's great to focus on your gut as well. We're on the road a lot, and that's just part of our work. And so we're also always going to visit family and friends and stuff. And sometimes whenever you're traveling, it can be hard to stay healthy. But AG1 has travel packs that make it super easy. Christian just throws them in his bag, very easy to travel with. And not only has he gotten his parents and friends hooked on it as well because of traveling, we've also been able to stay healthy on the road. And just because you're traveling, your healthy habits, like I said, they don't have to take a back seat. This is so easy. AG1 was designed with ease in mind so that you can live a healthier and better life without having to do a lot. I really love the vitamin D3 plus K2 drops by Athletic Greens. This is just another way to stay healthy. I'm always taking vitamin D. I just feel so much better whenever I'm on it, honestly, and I definitely notice a difference when I'm not on it. And this is a really great way to take it because it's just a few drops you can just put in your water or on your food. No pills to swallow. It's just the support that you need too for your heart, your bones, your teeth, immune system. It even has helped my skin in a lot of ways. Vitamin D has always just made a huge difference. Plus, this bottle can go a long ways. You literally will have over 600 servings. So friends, you will not run out anytime soon. So if you're looking for an easier way to take supplements, Athletic Greens is giving a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Just go to athleticgreens.com/whoa. That's athleticgreens.com/whoa to check it out today.
Yeah. And I think too, a lot of that is if we want people to have a healthier understanding of what it's like to be a mother, we have to be real about it. We can't post hey, I just got back in my skinny jeans. I just had the baby 4 seconds ago, keeping it real. Yeah. we have to be real and we have to be vulnerable and we have to realize that there is strength in vulnerability. You change the game by being honest about your situation. If it's not going to do me any good or anyone any good if I'm sugarcoating the situation.
Yeah.
And I bring up an example in the book. It was after I had my first baby. My daughter's now 15 and a half. I came back from maternity leave and the very first question that I was asked by a male coworker was, how was my vacation? And
oh my goodness.
It was in that moment I was like, okay. And I was, so I was very angry at first, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was like, well, but I was real with him. I was like, and this might be a little graphic, but I was like, my nipples still hurt from nursing. I haven't healed from pushing a baby out of my privates. I haven't slept for 4 hours. I think so much of it is conditional on us being really real. And I know it doesn't make for palatable social media content. I'm not saying that, but like, let's be real about our experiences. It's because so often, like, he didn't know what he didn't know. Right. All he knew was the images that we're putting out there that were in our skinny jeans and it was easy and it looked like it's not. Right. Let's be real about it. And let's not just be real, but like, let's be the change and let's be there for one another as we are being vulnerable and just be the help that we so desperately need. So I think there is strength in vulnerability. There is absolute strength in vulnerability.
I absolutely agree. I love that so much. I think that that's one thing that Sadie, has done throughout her time podcasting and writing and all that is just tell the truth about what she's going through. And
absolutely.
A part of that is allows other people to speak into your life whenever you do like tell the truth, and someone can say, oh, they can empathize with you, or they can say, oh, how can I help? Or they can offer you good advice when you do like just tell the truth about where you are and are just honest and vulnerable with it. And also people can say like, me too. Yeah, I feel that too.
Absolutely.
I've also been burnt out. I can raise my hand and say, I've also felt that too. I felt like I've got so many balls juggling that like they're all going to fall down if I don't figure out which ones I can set down right now,
Sure.
Another analogy that like sometimes I think of is like I've got too many just tabs open in my brain, like, on your computer, it's like when you got
mental
like
tabs,
100 tabs,
my gosh.
You're like, okay, like which ones can I close down so that I can keep going and not be burnt out, And so when we do talk about that things, I think it is so helpful. You mentioned something else, just in talking about that in that social media. And I do think that like, that's something that I didn't really have to deal with whenever our kids were little, that comparison and that mommy guilt that comes with social media. And I always say our daughters, I'm like, the only time we really could compare ourselves were when we were at church and we'd look around and be like, another mom had on heels and looked like she actually got ready that morning. And you're like, how did she do it?
She took a shower.
That's really the only time. Yeah, exactly. That's the only time there was like the real comparison that you could notice. Or, you show up at work and, the other moms look like they're like fresh and they got up and worked out that morning. You're like, wait a second. But now I think women are bombarded with it like hourly because they're looking at their social media feeds and there's so much, it looks like other moms are just like killing it. And our other women, if you're not a mom yet, everyone deals with this or, so all of a sudden, whatever you did, you thought was so cute, your little Valentine craft that you did with your kids, you thought was really cute. Then you looked and saw another mom that did it and did it way better. And, just that comparison and what that feels like, as a woman, I feel like that's kind of a new thing that
it really is
that women are having to deal with.
It's something our kids are dealing with. You mentioned feeling less alone just a second ago, and that really struck me by being vulnerable. Like you can invite people into the conversation. They're like, "Oh, you too," but feeling less alone is a huge part of that. But yeah, it's so fascinating what you're talking about with social media because I was telling my daughter yesterday, I was like, I don't envy you because you can never get away from it, even for me, comparison robs us of our joy. Anytime we're looking, and we have to realize people aren't always putting out their, they're putting out their highlight reels, right?
Yes.
Comparison steals our joy. But I asked my daughter, because again, this generation's dealing with so much anxiety, and I'm like, creating those healthy boundaries, but I'm also like, I don't always know what to do and what to say to her, but I do ask her, I'm like, how can I support you in this season? How can I support you? And also like, I want to build into her, not just what she looks like. Like, it's really important for me that I build into her confidence and her self-esteem and who she is in God and her true identity. But it's a challenge. And I think this generation is going to rise up and find a way to turn it on its head. And I ask her all the time, I'm like, please tell me that you guys are going to because it's so out of control. We're so addicted. We're so addicted to our phones. All of us. It's not just this generation. Me too. I don't set a great example. I'm like, please create a solution. What the devil meant for evil, God meant for good. Please turn this into something really, really, really positive for this next generation. I believe that you can do it. But, asking her, how can I best support you right now? I don't have all the answers. I don't know. I'm not, but how can I support you? And she tells me how I can best support her. And so even if there's any parents listening, that have teen daughters or there's teenagers, and you're having a hard time communicating with your parents, or, just that's a really, really good way to connect with your teen about all the anxiety and pressures that they're dealing with. How can I best support you right now?
I think that's such good advice. Yeah, I think that's such good advice. Just asking the questions. And you being a journalist,
for sure,
you can definitely guide us in that. And just asking the questions and leaving it open to the answer. I feel like that as a mom. Someone asked me recently, what's the thing that you need to know about as a mom of a teen? I really think listening is it. It's just you really have to be a good listener and be there for when they're ready to talk. And it might not be at the most convenient time, but be there for when they're ready to talk and just listen and let them know that you're there for them. They're trying to figure it out. And if you come across as you've got it all figured out, and a lot of times they will turn that off. But if you can just listen and hear them, let them know that they are, they're seen and they are, their opinion is valued and what they're going through is really valid. I think that's so important. My daughter, Bella, one time, so I have a friend who just is an amazing businesswoman. She's a mom. Her kids are so cute. And she posts just beautiful pictures on Instagram where she cooks and she, has just, her house is gorgeous and all this kind of thing. Well, my daughter got in her car one time and her car was just trashed, a mess. Everything was a mess. And Bella was like, that was really so good for me to see because and she mentioned it to me and I said, well, that's the thing is something has to give. You cannot do it all. It can't all be perfect all the time. And if one thing is looking perfect, you got to know there's something else. There's a closet that's everything's about to fall out. And that's just reality. But it was so helpful. Bella said that even she's not a mom yet. But she's a student and her car is always messy because she's busy. She's a new wife and student and her car's a mess. And I was like, you just don't remember when y'all were little, our car was a mess. I mean, I had a minivan that I literally I traded it in and they said they found $3 in the CD of change where kids had put, change in our CD thing. I mean, our minivan was a mess and I was working. I was a mom. I was trying to do it all and everything on the surface on Instagram would have, if we ever had Instagram, would have probably looked perfect. But yeah. Meanwhile, our kids were just stuffing dimes into the CD.
At least it was dimes and it wasn't, they weren't trying to shove Swedish fish or goldfish in there.
I don't even know. I remember the plumber had to come because there was so many toys in our toilet that had just one of the kids had stuffed down, One of the things in the book you talk about is writing mom fails on social media. You write a few mom fails. I thought they were so fun. Can you share you share a mom fail that that you've experienced?
I can share. Oh my gosh, where do I start with my own mom fails? I mean, just yesterday I was going to my son's golf tournament and I had my other kids in tow, and even though my husband told me where it was, I still showed up at the wrong golf tournament or the wrong golf course, which was 25 minutes away. But I just have a funny story to share. I open one of the chapters with this, and my youngest is just obsessed with smacking my butt. I know it's terrible. I know he's 9 years old now, but when he was really little, we were on vacation and I decided to take my older two for a walk on the beach. And my youngest was back with my husband. And when I got back from the walk, my husband looked like he'd seen a ghost. And he's like, Paula, Landon walked up to, a woman, he thought it was you. She had the same bathing suit on.
Oh no.
And smacked her butt as hard as he could.
Oh no.
Yes, he did. Luckily, she had a really good sense of humor about it. She turned around. She's like, wow, you're getting started young. But I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed that because yes, I know I should have nipped that little thing in the bud for a while ago. But yeah, I mean, the thing is like mom fails help us feel seen. And you know what? Parenting's not perfect and our kids aren't perfect. We're not perfect. No. Balls are going to drop. Butts are going to be smacked, you know? So like, and things are going to happen along the way. And just like, it's okay. It's okay. Stop trying to put on this front of perfectionism because it's actually not healthy for us either. Yes. It's healthy for us to ask for help. That's mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. It is healthy for us to say, I can't carry it all. I need your help. I'm not going to be perfect. I'm going to drop some balls. Will you help me?
When I was reading those, I was actually remembering a time. So this is like, I think the statute of limitations has like gone out on this. So I'm probably safe. No one can turn me in for this. But I
can't wait to hear this. Okay. Yeah.
So it was during Dynasty. Things were crazy. I was doing a radio interview on the phone with all my kids in the car, taking them to I think they had horse lessons. So we were driving out to horse lessons and I realized, oh no, I've got this radio interview I have to do. So they're on the back seat and I'm like threatening them with their life, like be quiet because, you know, I have to do mom has to do this radio interview and I'm driving and of course they start talking. And so I think, okay, I've got to pull over the side of the road and get out. So I pull over into this parking lot and I jump out of the car, still talking on the phone. I look back and my car is rolling. I forgot to put it in park. All four kids are in my car. I'm doing a radio interview and the car is just rolling forward. I was still talking. I jump back in the car, like throw it in park, get back out and continue the interview. We all survived. We made it. But I was like, oh my goodness, that could have been just a disaster. But literally, just forget to put my car in park. And there's times when I've left the kids at track practice. I've done all the things. Oh, yeah. So, you know, as a mom, it happens.
I got a call from my daughter and she's like, where are you? And I was like, I'm at Walmart with your brother. She's like, well, track is over. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be an hour late picking you up because I forgot about you.
I forgot. Yeah. It happens. It happens.
You know, what's really pathetic, Korie, in my calendar, I have to put in pick up child number 1 at 2:30, pick up child number 2 at 3:30, pick up child, like I have to put it in there.
Yeah.
Because there's, like you said, the mental taps. And it's like, I'm not doesn't make me a bad mom. That just means I got a lot on my plate. And I'm actually trying to remember to pick my kids up.
That's right. You got a lot going on. Well, one of the things too, I love that you talked about, because I think that, it's just about in that burnout, in that season where you feel burnout. And I think we talk a lot about saying no to a lot of things. And that is such an important word. No is an important word. And like finding the things that are important that you mentioned. What are your glass balls and what are your plastic balls that you can just put down? But that no is so important. And I remember times in my life where like I had to let go of things that I in prior seasons was good at. Like I was the one who hosted the showers or was the one who like took food to somebody. But then there were times in my life where I was so busy that I just had to say like, nope, I cannot be that person right now. I cannot do that because I have to do the things that are on my plate and right in front of me. But also you talk about saying yes to the things that bring you joy. And I just love that thought. And I feel like that's something that speaks to me because I have to regularly remind myself of that, of like saying like, oh, I'm going to do the fun thing. And it's okay to like go just do something that's fun that just brings you joy.
Totally.
So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that and how that works in your life.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned burnout. Burnout is like, there's a difference between I'm just exhausted and burnout. And like burnout is when you feel like you're at the end of the end of the end of the end of yourself and you're short and exacting with people. You're not yourself. And that happened to me last summer. And I was burnout on motherhood. It wasn't burnout on my jobs. It wasn't burnout on anything else. I was just burnout on being a mother. And so we always hear, like, well, first of all, like the majority of mothers are burnout at some level. The majority of people today are feeling burnout and mental exhaustion at some level. And we always hear, say no to things, draw boundaries. You have boundaries at work, but where are your boundaries at home? Then it just becomes white noise. I'm saying no. And you start saying no to so many things that you're also saying no to the things that once brought you some joy. So a friend of mine, her name is Jessica Kim. She's just a wonderful founder. She's the founder of Ionic Care, which is a caregiving company. She says, when I'm feeling burned out, what I do is I add something, I say yes to something that brings me joy. And it could just be something frivolous. It can be something really fun. Like for me, I saw this yoga studio and it was trapeze yoga. So you're like hanging from a ceiling with these silks. And I was like, I'm going to try that. That sounds super fun. Like I love to do that sort of thing. Just try something new. And I'm like, I'm going to say yes to that. And that was in the season where I was extracting. And I'm like, but I'm going to say yes to that. That really, I know it just was, it doesn't sound like a lot, but saying yes to something that brings you joy, saying yes to something that brought me joy was a game changer.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important, if mom ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, want. We hear that all the time, but that's not this. This is say yes to something that brings you joy.
Yeah.
True joy. Like, wow, this is going to be so fun. It might be something I've never tried before. Say yes to it. And make sure that you're saying yes to that one thing that brings you joy, along with, saying no to the things that you don't want to do in this season. And like for me, it's always about everything comes back to my why. Why am I doing what I'm doing in this season? Because I think it's seasonal. We're called different things in different seasons. I'm saying yes and no to the things that I'm saying yes and no to because I want to be real present with my kids. I want to be the one that drops them off, picks them up. I want to go to all their sporting events. Like I want to be really, really involved in their lives physically too, So that's my motivator for everything that I do. That's why I say yes to things. That's why I say no to things. But saying yes to some things, it's really fun. Say yes to something that brings you joy.
I think that's so really great. Important. I think that's so great. I feel like Willie has taught me that. He's really good at that. I don't know if like men in general are better at that than women, but like, in the middle of the day, if you can, he puts on his golf shoes and goes out and hits some golf balls and just does something fun, and Don Miller talks about that a lot, about how just implementing that play into your life and how sometimes we lose that. And life just becomes, but it doesn't have to be. You can just say yes to that trapeze yoga. I actually did that one time too. And I had like, did you have sore hips after that? It was kind of painful. Did you like it?
I loved it, but maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment. You just mentioned,
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because I love doing something different like that too. I'm with you. I'm like, I'll just try something different. And that is fun to me too, but it was kind of painful for me, but go ahead.
I agree though. It's not for everybody, but like the class I went to, like it was a bunch of like 70-year-old women. And I was like, they cannot show me up. They can't show me up. I'm like in my 40s. I'm like, but they were incredible and agile, but do something that maybe you lose yourself. And Craig Groeschel talks about how burnout he was at the end of the day. And he just had to do some things where he could just literally lose himself in it. Like, pilot training, or jujitsu, something where you can turn the page where you don't have to, you can just be, and I'm losing myself mode. Like I need to get myself back. It's really, really important to our sanity, to our spiritual health, to our emotional health, to our mental health, all of it.
I think so too. Well, I love,
but no more trapeze yoga for you, Korie.
No, that was I did it once. That's worth
there
something.
You go.
Exactly. Like I'm the one that's like every new class, I'm like, I'm going to try it, and just adding that fun. But then I also can get in seasons where I'm like not doing anything fun and I'm just like working all day. And then so it feels so busy and just feel like that stress and I need to add
You feel
something.
The burnout because you haven't said yes to anything.
That brings me joy. Yeah. So I love that we've had this conversation and I love that Sadie's going to get to listen to this conversation because she's right in the middle of this, of a new mom and what does that look like and how do you figure out how to find the balance or whatever balance looks like and all the things as a new mom. So this is going to be such an encouragement to her and such an encouragement to, I know, everyone who has listened. I was thinking about, as we've been talking is just this idea that like, we can't, you mentioned seasons and like we can't find our identity in our work or even in our being a mom because those things change. And you're a mom forever, of course, once you're a mom, but still that season, those things change. And whenever you experience, I know I've experienced like you feel like you're failing at work or you're failing at being a mom or something like that. Then if your whole identity is based in that, then you can definitely like lose yourself in it and feel burned out. But just thinking about how, our identity has to be found in Christ, and that's what eternal, that's what doesn't change. But, all the things I talk a lot about because I'm around a lot of young girls, because my daughters are like in their 20s and all their friends and all that. And I just see this like anxiety building up of like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, what is it supposed to be? And, at the age, I'll be 50 this year, and I can look back and just say like, you have so much time. You can do it all. You can be a student now. You can be a mom later. You can work. You can have a job. You can be a stay-at-home mom for a while, and then you can be a working mom for a while. Then you can go back to be a stay-at-home mom. You can do it all, and just try to encourage young people out there who are watching, who are listening or watching, just to know that like, don't put all that on yourself. You don't have to carry it all, like Paula says. I think that's just the title right there. And the book was so good. I was so blessed by getting to read it and prepping for this conversation.
Thank you, Korie.
Thank you for sharing.
The book and Korie was kind of birthed out of my own story of calling, where I felt like God was calling me to something different. And if I could just speak real quick before we go, a little bit of life into anyone that's listening. You're going to be called to different things in different seasons.
Yes.
And I think we're so quick to answer that question that we've been asked since we were little. What do we want to do when we grow up? Guess what? Like, God's going to call you to a myriad of different things in different seasons. Don't back yourself into a corner. Give yourself permission to try new things and new seasons. For me, this is a season of calling, really pursuing Korie and being, advocating for working moms. God might have something different for me in 5-10 years. I don't know, but I hold it loosely, knowing where my identity is. It's not in what I do. It's in who I am and who I'm doing it for.
Yes.
Always remember that. And if you love what you do so much that it defines you, if you can't walk away and still not know who you are, then there's an issue there. But give yourself permission. You will be called to different things in different seasons. You don't have to pick one thing for the rest of your life. God's given you talents and gifts that will transfer into different seasons of life. I thought I could only be a broadcaster because I was curious and a question asker and nosy. Turns out I can be an entrepreneur and a founder in this season. I use those same gifts. Give yourself permission to try new things in new seasons, knowing that your worth isn't work and your value is not just your vocation and your calling isn't just your career. So if I could just speak a little life into that, that's what I want.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with me today. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
And
Go
so
hug
encouraging.
your new baby.
I absolutely will.